if Tanto still wanted to share, or if there's another person look like the Neanderthal pictures that are in the museums and in the historical like representation of natives. Many people believe that, you know, if you don't have feathers in your hair and you're not showing up with a war bonnet on, you know, the Lakota war bonnet, that you're not Native American. There are over 500 Native American tribes in the United States that are recognized by the feds. And then there's another almost 300 that are not recognized. Wow. So Native American is such a broad cultural identity. Now, I can say that there is a sense of Native American culture because what's happened is tribes have banded together in order to survive and to create a cultural identity. You know, whether that's through powwow or sweat lodge, or even some of the services that are connected to the local Indian community where you live in Portland. You know, I have done my best to show up for the local community here in Arizona, in Phoenix, by going to Native American Connections. They have a weekly sweat lodge, and I, you know, practice going there sometimes twice a week. For many months of my life, many years of my life, I went, you know, twice a week. So just really showing that you have that hunger in your life, the doors will begin to open. And when they do, you know, allow for yourself to really sit with the feelings of disconnect, because those feelings are coming from ancestral wounds. It's not just about you. You know, it's coming from your ancestors being displaced and being assimilated into a culture that was about eradication. So for us that are trying to grow in our understanding of what it means to be in the contemporary world, right? We're not going to go out and hunt the buffalo tomorrow. You know, we're not going to go out and live on the prairie tomorrow. You know, how do we navigate our identity here? And really, it's about, you know, I feel it's a spiritual, emotional connection. And when you begin to open your heart up for Source to lead you and for Source to show up in your life, you're going to have those doors open up. And I'm here to support you in that process. And I'm sure that the community in Oregon will support you in that process. And, you know, to be honest with you, if they don't, you know, if you get the stink eye showing up at a talking circle, or if somebody looks at you and thinks you're not Indian enough, you know what, that's on them. That has nothing to do with you, you know, and your ancestors, my ancestors, the people that went through the Indian Wars, over 200 years of active warfare in this country. That's what our ancestors went through. When you hear on the news that the United States' longest war is the war in Afghanistan, that is complete bullshit. The longest lasting war in the United States was the American Indian War and went on for hundreds of years. So what we're going through right now is a part of that process. And it really is important for all of us to understand that it does take courage. Listen, you know, like I said, I grew up white in a brown neighborhood and brown in a white neighborhood. You as a person that, you know, looks the way that you do, you're going to have challenges. And just understand that you're not the only one. You're not alone in that conversation. You know, many of us that have tried to find our identity, you know, we're the hardest. I think Russell Means said, in this country, you know, you can be anything except Native American. You know, that's the truth. You know, you can be anything in this country that you want to be except Native American. And the system is set up to blind all of us from being earthlings. And I'm not just talking about those of us with indigenous North American heritage. I'm talking about all my European American brothers and sisters. You know, you are given this idea that you're not connected to the earth, but you are a pop-up of the earth. You are literally the earth incarnated and walking around on two legs. But yet this idea that's a part of the system that keeps us from living in the activated understanding that we are the air, the water, the fire, the earth, is really associated with the system of religion, the system of economics, the system of the military industrial complex, the judicial system. All of these systems are a part of that conversation. And what we're doing is we're supporting one another in a culture that says, guess what? It's okay to be an earthling again. You know, how are we going to sustain ourselves going forward if we don't acknowledge that we're of the land? You know, this is why we're eating more organic, we're eating more quality food. We're going to, you know, eating like we did ancestrally, which was, you know, you have eyes that want to grab fruit. You have eyes that want to grab, vegetables. We want to eat vegetables. This is like who we are. And the more that we get into that narrative that that is sustainable life, and the more that we understand our ability to sit at the table of the earthling conversation, the more that we're going to live as optimized people. And trust me, there are neural pathways that are only activated when you start to become an earthling. And what I mean by that is there are processes inside of your consciousness that become enriched when you look at the sun and you know that sun is beaming for you, when you feel the earth underneath you and you feel the chills run through your body because you know you're connected to the earth. This is a part of the process of relearning. We have grown up in the institutionalization. We are all captive to it. It's time that we begin to create a legacy, a culture, and we need to have courage to do it. And I'm grateful that we have this platform here to share today. There's a lot said already, and I want to give everyone a little bit of time to sit with that. But if something comes forward for you, I want you to have that courage to share. I know that there's people in this group that are hesitant to share in this way, in stepping out. And we live in an environment and we live in a culture right now. Just the idea that, somebody told you that it's okay for you to say that you're white presenting. Like, where does this come from? Like, I would never in my life, tell a person that they're white presenting. Like, this is especially a person that's Native American. Like, these ideas that are a part of our culture need to be addressed. And when you put that on a person that has Native American heritage, it fucking hurts. We need to be in authenticity with one another. And we need to be in vulnerability, and we need to be in love with one another into a way that you can show up in your identity.
Yeah. I feel like I can't do that right now. I maybe don't know how, so I'm learning.
And it's stepping out and sharing, what's really beautiful for you is you do have your federal recognition, and that goes a lot of way, goes really far in Indian country, but it also goes, I know that there's a lot of Indians out there that will go out and bake themselves in the sun to look browner, before they go to powwow. They'll these are things that happen to our people because of what's gone on. It's not it isn't, I didn't come over here from Ireland. I didn't come over here from Germany. I was born in America. Like, this is my land right here. This is the identity that I know. And I have indigenous genetic connection to this land. I identify with this land. I also yearn to understand what it's like to go to Ireland and to go to Germany and that other part of myself. But it's not as close to what it means to be American for me. So these are parts of the process. We're learning to navigate it. There's a lot of disconnect and ignorance also within the Native community, but there are also those that still operate from all my relations and still operate from that place of wanting to help a person. I would not be the person that I am today without the elders that have loved me enough to sit in Sweat Lodge and to guide me and to share with me how to show up in ceremony. And that takes time. It takes years of dedication. And it also takes a practice, and that's what I want to give you permission. I want to give you permission, Cynthia, to show up in your practice of living in your authenticity and in your self-identity. How does that feel to you?
I feel a little validated, even though maybe I'm not supposed to, but it feels good because I felt very where am I? Where do I fit in all this? So that's very helpful. So thank you very much.
It's amazing that even in your validation, you tell yourself that you're not supposed to. Even in that, I just want to acknowledge that in you for a second and just say, rest in that place for a moment. Just rest in being seen for this time that we're here. Just rest in it. And just allow yourself to feel that peace before you start to dismiss it with your intellectual mind and the narratives that have been taught to you. We want you to be Cynthia. and to be Cynthia, the daughter of, or the child of, or the grandchild of. You know, that's all you need to be here, is the fullness of you. And you're allowed, Cynthia, to feel that acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Blessings. Is there anyone else here that would like to share?
I would like to share, brother.
Yes.
First and foremost, thank you, Andrew, for being here. Thank you, Cynthia, saying thank you. Mark, thank you. Angela, thank you all for being here.
Oh.
I am known by the name of Tanto, but my birth name is Darian Uciel Hernandez. I have blood from many places. I am part Taino native from the Caribbean. I come from the first island that Christopher Columbus landed on. And so my peoples are gone. I have blood from Africa. I have blood from Europe. And so my ancestors are from all over this beautiful earth that we share. And the first feelings that came up when you asked us if we wanted to share was, you're blessed, you're fine. Leave the space for others who need it. And I recognize that I need it as well. I see myself as a healer. I see myself as a leader. I see myself as someone who is here to serve and help others. I come from instability. I come from self-destructive habits. My mother's name is Katiuska Isiano. My father's name is Jose Apolinar Isiano. I've never been truly connected to my family. I was always like the black sheep. Even within my group, I was never with anyone. I was always alone my whole life. We would have family parties so often. Everyone would get drunk and everyone would be together dancing and laughing, and I would always be alone my whole life growing up. I was always alone, or so I felt. And my life and source and the father and the mother and all these higher beings and forces that are here to aid us and guide us in our journey have been aiding me and guiding me in my journey. My ancestors have been like the wind at my back, pushing me forward on this journey. And I am so deeply grateful for that. And I recognize that I am blessed and that I am gifted, but I also recognize that I've never had a teacher, that I never had a father, that I never had a mother. I was adopted at the age of 14. My father was a deeply abusive man. He was physically abusive to me. Really just me. And so, but I forgive him, and I have sat in the place of my father, and I have recognized that he himself did not have a father. He himself did not know what it meant to be a man. And so I forgive him, and I love him for who he is. And I love him through his struggle, and I appreciate the journey. My mother is a woman who was cast away by her mother when she was a little girl, and her mother abandoned her and left to Europe with a man, and she was left there to be raised as an extra in a family of 30 in the Dominican Republic. And so she had no foundation or sense of self. And I recognize myself as very blessed, and I'm very, very grateful because I have been given the messages. I receive those consistency, and I'm here and I'm healing, but I recognize I've always wanted a teacher. I have this capacity. I have the capacities I have, but I don't really know how to use them. I have these gifts, but I don't know how to use them. And so I go and step forward, and it feels like I take a few steps back. And even now, as I'm speaking, I'm saying you have no right to complain. Your life has been so blessed. And I'm not complaining. I'm simply sharing my truth in complete vulnerability, and I allowed to do that, and I appreciate you all for welcoming me.
Oh,
Grateful for you all. I don't know what I'm even asking for here.
mm-hmm.
I
I
don't
hear
know
so much. I really hear a lot coming from you, and what really I feel is the guidance is that there's a lot of captivity in your life, and this captivity is formulated around your own cognitive understanding of self, and you've isolated yourself into this almost like this prison. And the reason that I can share this with you is because I know that prison, Tanto. I know what it's like to be in the always and the never. And listening to you, there was at least, I counted 8 times that you reference your life in an always and a never. And when we put ourselves into the absolutes of that captivity, what we can do is we can begin to loosen that density, because the trauma that's inside of you is simply potential. You have fortified this whole understanding of yourself. And as you fortified that space, what's been created is a gravity. And that gravity is bringing in a lot of energy into your life, and it also is holding potential. What I am witnessing for you and holding in faith is that that density will be the catalyst for you optimizing your own sovereignty. And when we speak in terms of emotional sovereignty, this is a legacy that you are going to hand down for the next generations. If you could just simply take what I'm sharing with you about the always and the never conversations, just those 2 words, Tanto, just to really understand when you're using that in your life. And understand that as you're practicing, allowing for your mind to conceptualize the optimal state of human design, you are loosening yourself to limitless potential. And that's where flow comes in. That's where the water begins to minister to you. That's where the air begins to minister to you. That's where your life begins to become the wholeness that we all are witnessing in you as you come forward. It takes courage to come forward in that. And also growing up in a dynamic where your voice was pushed down and was told that you're not a part of the conversation. This is you coming into that place of validating your own self, validating the inner child within you, and really saying, you know what, there is a place for me in this community. And my gifts are real. As you begin to activate yourself in the realization of loosening the captivity, the more you will see your manifestation gifts, your alchemy gifts, the more you will see empathy begin to really transform your world. I know that there's been windows of it in your life. I am hoping for you to live in that viewpoint in the totality of the experience. How does that rest with you?
Brother, I have faith in my journey.
Oh.
I know that I will reach the place that I am meant to go.
Mm-hmm.
It is simply a matter of continuing to step.
Yes.
And so long as I continue to step, I will meet people like you and all of you that are here with me, and we will guide one another into the sun. We will guide one another into tomorrow. There is forever. We are everything.
Oh. It's beautiful.
And there's infinite power in that, but there's no but. It's thank you.
Yes. Yes, I can see it radiating from you, man. It's like so many just breakthroughs right there. And that just simple interaction. I feel it. I feel like the revelation is going to come in an even deeper way. You know, I feel like maybe a dream, a waking dream, a lucid dream, more information even coming from your ancestral connection from the Taina who are still alive in you, right? They have not disappeared. They're still alive in you.
They
Like
are
you
in
are the
me, brother.
dream of them. You know, the innocence of what Columbus experienced when he came here and he said one small army of Spaniards could take the whole island, the whole country, because the Taino people were such an innocent, powerful people living in perfect harmony with the environment. This is still in you. This is still a part of you.
I am
Your
nature.
African ancestors that came over here that suffered the slavery, your European ancestors that made themselves a part of the genetics that you are. You're the rainbow incarnated right here, Tonto. And as you begin to loosen yourself in your own consciousness, the manifestation of the great gift that you are to all of us and how you can relate to each and every one of us in a certain way will begin to marinate in your empathy. And I just see great vibrational manifestation for you. And you're in such a young, hungry space right now that, man, you're a gift to us all. You know, it's really a beautiful time. You know, give thanks.
Thank you. I sometimes lose myself in the thanks, even because I am so grateful, because there is so much to be grateful for. Even, I wanted to say even in the loss, but there is no loss. It is simply a journey. My ancestors are not dead. They live in me.
Woo! Man, I felt that one right here. I felt it right here.
We are here,
big,
brother.
big.
We are here, brother. We are one,
Big.
brother.
Oh, that's
here,
it.
brother. We are one, brother. And so long as we stay true, we will be forever. We are forever. I'm a father. I'm a father.
Yes.
I'm just grateful, guys. Thank you all so much for holding space for me. I want to thank the all for holding space for us. I thank you. That's all I can say, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Blessings.
Gratitude.
And usually Tonto is the one who leads us out in our ceremony each week here. So it's great to hear this and to share this with you. Thank you, Tonto.
Thank you, brother. We are all playing a role. We are all playing a part in this wonderful crucible of love that we are all a part of. We are all an equally important and vital and beautiful and complex part of this wondrous thing that is life and light. And so, yeah, thank you all. Thank you all.
Andrew, do you have a little more time, or you have to get going?
Yeah, if there's someone that has something that comes forward for them, I'll stay in here for, maybe one more person, and then we can close it out. If there's someone that has something to share, if not, we can.
I say if anyone feels vulnerable, that's your sign to get in on it.
I'd like to say thank you.
Oh.
Just a thank you, sir. You're very inspirational. And to have someone lead in prayer, I heard someone, months ago lead in prayer, and it really set me back into the foundation of what I was raised in, but sharing that prayer and connecting to it through who I am now, not through how I was taught to be. But thank you for leading this and sharing all this, man. Thank you for your time.
What was your name?
I'm Aaron. I'm one of the Aarons.
Aaron, yeah, I want to give you permission to develop that relationship with Source in the way that serves you. The reason why you're being called into that container of relationship with Source, with Spirit, is because that there is a witness of that. The institution of religion is broken. We all know it. Yet that relationship that was given to us is something that we can have in a way that serves us. So thank you for that. That's been a part of my practice. And also to all of us here, relational spirituality is about how we show up in relationship with the air, the water, the fire, the earth, with the universe. And it's okay to speak to that relationship. You know, I tend to speak to that relationship with a thanks for what I do not see. So how does that look? You know, thank you, Creator, for a government that cares about all people, cares about the air, the water, the fire, the earth, right? That's the prayer right there. You know, so I'm saying the manifestation with the thanks that it has already happened. This is a very powerful tool in your prayer life. You know, whatever it is that you're going through, give thanks for that you do not have. This is the substance of faith.
Thank you.
For sure. Blessings.
To you.
I can go if no one else wants to go. I'd like to share a little bit, if that's okay. Phil, why not? Since I have this opportunity, I want to take
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just about to go, but go ahead, brother. This all good. Go ahead, man. I love it.
Okay. Well, speaking of the family lineage, I know my name is Angelo Dieso. My mother is Jean Gaudet. My father is Michelangelo Dieso. My grandmother is Florence Gerard, and my grandfather is Rodolphe Gaudet. So for me, I don't know much about, I know my father's lineage to an extent. My grandfather, Angelo Miguel Dieso, came over from Italy to Ellis Island in he was born in 1895. He came here in the 1920s, and I never knew him, but I sensed the generational abuse that's come down, at least from him to my father through physical abuse, and from my father to us through some emotional abuse. My mother also experienced abuse in her life from her parents unwittingly, probably because of she had like hyperactive behavior, and so they gave her electric shock treatments, and she dismisses it as like, that's what they did back then, you know, that's all good, and like, don't worry about it, don't tell anybody about it either. And so she doesn't really know much about the lineage of the heritage of the family from French. She is French Canadian, from family coming from New Brunswick, New Brunswick, Canada. And before that, I feel a sense of lost identity from my mother's side, which is, you know, and a very important side, obviously, through what I've learned from you, Andrew. I don't know what that means, French Canadian, because, you know, that's like saying I'm English American, because that's the language that was spoken. But where is it from? Europe? I assume so, because of the pigment of my skin and my mother's skin. My father's more like your color skin, darker Italian. So that's an inner conflict that I think that I've had, not knowing, wondering like where that comes from. I guess I identify as American because that's where I was born and my parents were born, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. That's what I've been thinking about a lot lately as far as family goes.
I feel like one of the ways that you can fill that void energetically is by using your mother's maiden name. So when you call in your mother's mother, you would call in grandmother and then her maiden name. And then you could call in grandfather and her maiden name as well. It's a start for you if there's no actual connection to them, because obviously they're knocking on the door of the infinite. They're spiritually showing up in your life energetically, and these questions will remain, and you'll begin to fortify a density of void if we allow for that to happen. So really what they can come to you in the form of spirit, you can allow for them to manifest in a totem, you know, a blackbird, a hummingbird, you know, a bear, a salmon, something that you want to visualize them coming through. The way that you do this in ancestral healing is at the point in which your consciousness is telling a story. So for instance, most of us have a tape going on in our minds, right? You know, I'm thinking about, oh, you know, should I go into business with this guy? You know, it feels pretty good, but I don't know if it's right. Should I go into business with this person? I just don't know. And immediately a blackbird flies into my field. Well, what this is telling me inside of the world that I operate from is that this is a sign for me, right? This is a sign that in my personality, I would go with that undecided idea with, okay, now I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with that because the blackbird for me means prosperity. So this is how we can begin to incorporate animal totems into our life without like appropriating the idea of an animal totem from a culture. The rat means something different to Chinese medicine than it does to Japanese medicine, than it does to Pueblo medicine, Hopi medicine, yet the rat is a part of all those medicines. How do we incorporate that technology into our everyday life? This could be a totem for you in the relationship to your matriarchal grandparents. So I want to give that sort of guidance and permission to you to also bring them in your introduction, because I do feel like that will begin to create some peace in your life of how you navigate that part of you. And then who knows what will open up. There was a lot going on with the French. The history of the French in Canada is a very long history. You got a couple hundred years of history there. So it's worth exploring. And in my heart, I would share with you, get into that, like look into it deeper. There's a road of self-identity that's important when we begin to understand our ancestry. It is a lot easier on the European side a lot of times than it is on the American side because, once you get into Europe, there's a long history there. Many of us that have a European connection, we can go back genealogy, to a king or someone like that. It's like it's all kept because that identity of ancestral connection outside of America is important.
Yeah.
If you go anywhere in Asia, a lot of times they'll have a picture of their ancestor right as you walk into the home. Their grandfather or their grandmother, they'll burn incense to them. Some places in Latin America, they still hold on to those traditions. For whatever reason, when people came here from Europe, they were told to become jobs, and this is also a part, of the dissolving of the connection to Africa. There are very few African Americans that understand their tribal identity in Africa, although there are some that do, and we're all learning like how to navigate that story more. Our disconnect from Europe, our disconnect from America, our disconnect from our ancestry that came over here from whatever country they came, there's a hunger for that. So I would encourage you, go down that road, have the courage to go into it. Start calling them forward the way that you can, and you'll see some fulfillment. So that's what comes through for me, in this space. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marcelo, I wanted to give you opportunity too to share, since you held your hand up and wanted to share. So.
Sure. I'll be quick. Okay. So, mi mamá es de México, Zacatecas, México, y se llama Rosa María Ruiz Peña. Mi abuelita es María Cleofas. Mi bisabuela es Tomasa Carrillo. Mi abuelito se llama Willy Baldo Ruiz. Mi abuelito se llama Manuel Ruiz. Mi bisabuelo Higinio Ruiz. Y mi bisabuelo, whatever it is Francisco Ruiz. And that's my mother's side.
Oh.
My father's side, mi papá, is de Montevideo, Uruguay. Y mi abuelita se llama Jacinta Peña. Y mi abuelita o bisabuela es Pura Barbaía. I'm learning these, so.
Mm-hmm.
And my abuelito, I never knew him. My dad never knew his dad, but his name was Claudio Bentancur. I gave my last name from my grandma, actually, just because my dad didn't want nothing to do with his father, just because he didn't know him. So that's how that ended up. And I'm learning how to deal with my energies, with all of my history, because my parents, I'm a first generation born American. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, South Side. And it was around a lot of Mexican people, but because of the gangs, because of the environment, my parents didn't want to raise children in that. So we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And I basically grew up around a lot of Black people. So I'm just a mixture of all these energies and cultures. And it's what I am. And a lot of my life, I've tried to learn how to control the emotion, control the energy, because if y'all were to meet my dad, he's just so loud. he's just so wild. And he'll be talking to his friends from Uruguay, and you honestly think he's murdering somebody because it's just so loud. And I had that in me. I have all that energy. That's why sometimes when people say, you know, need to speak up on these Zooms, it's like I want to, but it's like you have that 5-second rule. If you don't say nothing, I got all the energy to just, I don't know what to do then. And I back out sometimes, but I'm just learning how to do that more and more and more. And every time I join in one of these Zooms, and especially when it's you talking, it just resonates with me because that's what I hunger for. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want, to connect with my roots and my relatives. So I'm just honored. It's always a great feeling to be in everyone's presence and to do this and to continue to get better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, gracias. And, you know, that whole, the way that you know so much about yourself and the opportunity that you show your generation, you know, your family, your community, it really is refreshing. This is a part of us remembering, you know, there's so many people that disconnect themselves from their family because of the trauma. You know, they think to themselves, you know, oh, you know, what does it mean to be the son of? What does it mean to be the daughter of? What does it mean to be the child of, the grandchild of? Like, this isn't even me. But yet there comes a part of us that begins to look at that and begin to question those ideas and concepts. And for indigenous people that I've been in ceremony with, if you were to say something like, oh, I don't know who I am, it would be a tragedy. To know how to introduce yourself is to really be the baseline. That's like the foundation of spirituality and self-identity. Without that, you're called abandoned. That's kind of the terminology, not the abandoned in like, oh, you know, we shun you from the community, but abandoned in, oh my God, you don't know who you are. Yeah. Like, I can't believe that nobody told you that you're a child, that no one told you that you're a grandchild. And when you find the deepness of the rest in that space, see, this culture, right, wants us to be all of these things that serve someone's pocket. Like, that's the reality of it. You know, resting in the idea and the concept of the fulfillment of your self-identity brings in the energy of finance, the energy of provision effortlessly. When you begin to really understand yourself from that place of rest, the world opens up in so many ways. And also the satisfaction begins to happen where you can take a compliment and you can feel it. Where it's not just washing it away because you don't deserve it, but you can actually feel the energy of empathy in its form of relational response. See, this is what happens a lot of times when we're coming into the energetic understanding of what it means to have flow, right? You and your perceived understanding of the energy that's going through you, there's this observation that says, okay, I need to shut myself down because I'm too energetic. Yet I want you to be in that place where you're burning like the blue flame fire, right? You can be the out of control forest fire, but when you hone that blue flame fire, that's the fire that cuts through the chains of captivity. And you have that ability in you to burn like that. It's just a matter of refining it and also giving yourself permission. Because when we begin to shut ourselves down, what we're doing is we're dismissing the blessing of our ancestry. We're dismissing that part of us that shows up in community the way that we are. And, you know, we had Cynthia talk about how she shows up in community and how she doesn't feel like she can acknowledge that part of herself. And this is a continuation of that conversation in a certain sense. You know, we're holding space for you to be in the optimization of who you are, to burn the fire, the blue flame fire, to understand the energy of your father's side, to understand, the dance of the Uruguay people, to understand the love that's inside of that energy, to also sit in the softness of what your mother brings, because that space inside of you is really who you are. And there's an authenticity that comes forward when you live in that. So just giving you validation and understanding that where you're at is perfect and beautiful, just the way you are. And I also really, what comes forward for me also in a spiritual sense is that there's been a lot of times in your life that you've gone through things, right? And this is sort of a reading if you're open to that.
Absolutely.
But I want to share this with you because it really comes like from what I feel is like the Holy Spirit speaking through me, is that there's been some things that you've gone through, and even like I would say stuff that a lot of people would want to eliminate their life. I'm talking about deep issues of suicide. And I want to share with you that it's okay to own that from a survivor place. I can raise my hand in this group and say I'm a suicide survivor. And I want to give you that witness as well, whether it was thoughts, whether it was actions, whether it was like looking at a place where you just wanted to give up on life. I just want to give you permission to bring forward your authenticity in what you have gone through in your life, what you've experienced in your life, because your mess is our medicine. Okay, when you begin to take your mess and you begin to formulate it through your vulnerability, your intimacy, we all benefit from that. And I just feel like there's more inside of you, Marcelo, than what you're really bringing forward. And I want to give you permission to have that here, to have a community of people that will support you in that. And for us to all learn how to really embrace your own emotional intelligence, because I do believe that there is a lot of witness inside of you spiritually, emotionally, and you've gone through some things in your life that you have yet to reveal to people, but yet there's some treasures in there for all of us. So I don't know how that feels to you right now, but that's what comes forward. And I really want to be truthful to what I feel, and also know that when I do activate in that gift, that I'm receiving it, for all of us. So
I thank you. I thank you for giving me that permission and saying that, because it's dead on 100%. I've spent many nights in a mental ward because of a mistake that almost happened more than once. And it was just because of my life, my situation. Some of y'all know. I mean, I've dealt with addiction. I've dealt with drugs. And it was just because I wanted to feel. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to feel. And all this happened to me at such a young age that I was caught up in all of it, and I didn't know what to do. I just didn't want to feel the pain anymore. But it's almost like I'm getting more clear. Okay, this is what you have to do. And all those little nervousness, all the flutters or whatever it is, it's just like, stop. It's enough. So thank you. I love that. And I will continue to do more of it.
And I see you coming forward and saying that I'm a person that survived institutionalization.
Yes, sir.
And, I just want to share that with you, because I do believe that there's a story for you that is yet to be written. There's a person that is a survivor inside of you. And as you witness that survivor growing, and really the have to, need to, must statements become dissolved into the I am allowing Marcelo to show up in his authenticity. It's not that you have to do that, but in doing that, you feel the activation. And we all feel that activation. As you share that with me, what happens to me? It's like, okay, now, guess what? I know that I'm not the only one that survived institutionalization. I know that I'm not the only one that has dealt with the way that our current contemporary culture looks at people with mental illness. You see? Because we have designed a culture that does not allow for the optimization of nutrition, does not allow for the optimization of emotional intelligence. We eradicate that conversation and we focus on the double-blind study in pharmaceuticals. So for you to be in that witness, you give us all hope. And I want to encourage that, because we are at crisis point right now, Marcelo. There are people out there that are dying from suicide at a rate that is overwhelming. And I don't know how comfortable you are in owning the suicide survivor but I see that inside of you. And, I feel like that's something that I need to share right now. And I know that that's coming into intimacy. It's coming into vulnerability, but yet spiritually, I feel like that's a provocation. I'm provoked right now to share that.
I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I'm ready to tell my story, and whatever anybody wants to ask, I will let it be known, because I've been through so much, and it's just like, you know what, just be, you know what I'm saying? Just be, and I have no fear. There's no fear. It's just understanding and just polishing, you know what I'm saying? Just to continue to polish. But I would love to continue this conversation. You know what I'm saying? I really would. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, to figure out how I could help people, where I could go, or how I can reach out to people, because I know where I'm at now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm in a great place.
Mm. And also, this is giving you permission to bring us from where you've been.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know that there's a hesitance because we look at the way people judge us. We look at all of these things, but reality is that there are people that are suffering right now, even in this group. And when you live in your place of authenticity, you loosen us all from that captivity. It's not that you need to have a platform. The platform is already here. Mm-hmm. Your social media, the people you understand, the more that you step into your authenticity, I'm going to share with you, I just got done doing a virtual keynote presentation for the Oklahoma Mental Health Organization. They paid me thousands of dollars to do a 3-hour presentation with my beloved, not because, of anything great, but because I'm the son of 2 junkies. You feel me? Because I've been through prison, because I've been through the things in my life. And what I want you to do is to have that validation of knowing that your mess is our medicine. And the more that you go into that, I get excited about it because I see some revelation happening. And I feel it in my body. It's not just, an etherical thing. It's a visceral thing. I'm actually feeling it right now. I feel it too. Yes. Into that revelation, they call it, the Greeks used to call it the rhema word of God. This is like the revelation, right? That comes into your personal experience, Marcelo. And I know I'm speaking to you on a personal level because I'm seeing the smile, I'm seeing the nod. Your body's loosening up here, and even like the physical things that you've been through in your life, all of those things are a part of that narrative. And this goes for all of us here too. Some of the sisters that are in this group, I want to tell you that, there was a time in my life when the only way that I knew sexuality was to get a woman drunk till she was to the point where she couldn't say yes or no. This was the dysfunction that I lived in. And some of the stories that you've been through as women growing up in this country, the sexual abuse, the trauma, you need to call it being raped. Not pussy around it. I mean, excuse me, not mess around the actual understanding of it, but understand that inside of your life, the victim that is inside of you needs to have her voice lifted up. And I've been holding on to this whole time because I know that there's a person in this group, and I just wanted to put it out there. You've told yourself over and over again, no, I can't say this. I can't open up this way. I'm not allowed to. Maybe some of you went home to your mom even, and you said, I got drunk and I passed out and I woke up with my panties off. And she said, well, that's what you get. This is the fucked up world we live in. Yeah. And it's not your problem. It's our problem. And the more that we talk about it and the more that we own it as men as well, and we say that we were dysfunctional in our sexuality and we thought that that was right. I remember the moment that I asked my beloved, out in the wilderness in Oregon, I said, would you please stand in the gap for this woman? I don't even know her name, but I want to apologize for taking advantage of her, of raping her in her drunkenness. And she looked at me and she had to come to that moment where she acknowledged the abuse that she had been in. And it took so much courage for her to be that. But yet we stood out there in Oregon and I looked at her and I asked for forgiveness and we both cried. This is how we begin to heal. And it's that time as we begin to design a culture of sovereignty and freedom, and we look at nutrition and we look at these evolutions that are inside of us as we step into the conscious connection that we have to community, we begin to step into our authenticity. You know, and I just, that came forward for me. It's been inside of my heart brewing because I knew that we could go a little bit deeper. And I'm not going to cut this off right now. I'm staying here with anyone that feels like they need to speak.
Feel free to unmute yourselves, anybody. Go ahead. Don't be afraid.
I'm willing to share, brother. So I just want to express gratitude and to acknowledge what a miracle this is just to be together. I don't know if you guys have done the research, but the odds to be alive in this moment in time is 400 trillion to 1. And that makes us very, very freaking unique. And this beautiful moment and the way we're connecting, even though it's virtually. But that's the beauty of this time, that we can connect. And I wanted to touch on this old Hopi prophecy. The world will be saved when the rainbow people come. And that's what all we are, all of us. I was born in Sonora, Mexico. I come from, oh man, I come from trauma, brother. My mom was suffered tons of domestic violence, but she was pregnant. I had open heart surgery by the time I was 4. By the time I was 7, I was being molested. My father was a cartel member, and so I've seen it and experienced it all. For 17 years, I was addicted to opiates and heroin. By the time I was 20, I was cleaning up. By the time I was 21, I was cleaning up my brother's brains off the floor after he shot himself playing Russian roulette. I've witnessed murders. Oh man, I've sold heroin for many, many, many years. And that's just it. It's just right now, it's like I just had about 3 years of sobriety. And right now my main thing is releasing fear. That's the main thing that holds us all back. And that's what I want to kind of share is to learn how to simplify all this. Because all it is fear or love. You know what I mean? You cannot serve two masters. And once you open the heart portal, whatever opens your heart, whatever you love doing and standing in your truth, that's how you save your world. You know what I mean? And to touch on all of us that are experiencing this loneliness, this dark night of the soul that is called spiritual circles, that's just it. That the pain, that is our teacher. Our life is our teacher. You know what I mean? And just like you were saying, our mess is our medicine. And I'm learning basically what it is the Holy Spirit has been talking about a major spiritual awakening. But yeah, I've done all that shit that you've said to women, and it's my language. And my son's mom right now is in prison because she came in contact with me. I got her heroin. I'm 43 years old. She was in her 20s. You know what I mean? I should have never even messed with her. I got her pregnant, and I was still giving her heroin when she was pregnant. I lost custody of my kids. I mean, I've literally lost everything. Right now, everything I own fits in a suitcase. I just came back to my mom's, and so yeah. So right now, it's really like I'm on this soul search to find that soul family. My mom was abused so much that I could pretty much guarantee that she had postpartum depression. I mean, she had to raise 5 kids on her own while she was constantly being beat. And you know, both my parents are from Mexico. I was born in Mexico. All my other brothers and sisters were born here. So regardless, you've been in the pen. You've been on. I've been to jail a few times. I've been blessed not to go to prison or to end up, you know, in all these other places that a lot of our people that we've come in contact are no longer with us. And it's been through like this, through sharing. my identity, I've never really had an identity. Right now, I'm barely learning to become a man at 43 years old. My father was never there. He was constantly. So what I learned was that if I get mad, it's okay to put my hands on female. You know what I mean? Because that's what I was taught from a young age. And so, oh man. So now it is just really, I'm on this search to really find my circle. I'm also diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar, and I don't take pharmaceutical meds. So I did it all through spiritual healing, through plant medicine, through talking circles. I recently received all my 9 Moonlight key rights. So little by little, I've been introduced into our ancestors' medicine, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Even in rehab, I got medicine from Navajo people. I got medicine from Yaqui people, Tohonos, yourself now, natives from Canada. So this is it. It's just the great awakening. You know what I mean? And I'm just so blessed and honored to be here. Like I said, our parents, all our ancestors had to go through what they had to go through for us to be here right now.
Yes.
We had to go through everything we had to go through for all of us to be here and share space right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a miracle in my world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
the air is a miracle.
What comes forward for me right now, Frank, is that, you know, this disconnect and the distortion of what you've lived through with the feminine, you know, you honoring the predator that was inside of you at one point in your life gives witness to these ladies that are in this space right now, that they can be seen in that for once in their life. You know, maybe in their experience with sexual abuse and sexual trauma, they never had an opportunity to be validated as being raped. You know, and as we step forward and we share the dysfunction of the lifestyle that we lived, what we're doing is we're honoring the feminine in that way of the capacity of our honesty. And this is going to begin to loosen the captivity that's around your distortion with the feminine. And I know this because that grief and that barrier that's inside of you from really being able to love little Frankie, the little boy that's in you, with the nurturing power of the divine feminine, this will become a very powerful quality in you. You'll be able to actually do that for once in your life, because that guilt and that all of those traumas that are around the behaviors that you participated in are beginning to be loosened off of you. And the patience that comes from understanding that you are teaching the little boy in you to be a man, and you're learning how to be the masculine for yourself as well, but also learning to play, you know, learning to have that spirit inside of you, because the immaturity that we expressed inside of our dysfunction and our addictions was not the play of a child. That was the distortion of the feminine, the distortion of the masculine that was behaving in that way. Now, for once in your life, maybe you can nurture the little boy that's in you, and you can begin to express yourself artistically, emotionally, vibrationally, spiritually. All of these things are a part of the knowing. And I want to witness you in that way. And I want to give thanks for you acknowledging the trauma that you've been through, the path that you've been on, and also your 3 years of sobriety. You know, I'm at 20 years now being substance abuse free. You know, it's been that long since I pulled the needle out of my arm. And I can tell you, when you grow up in that culture, it's a totally different thing than a person that goes out on the weekend and, you know, does a little bit of dope and then ends up in, you know, their parents find a needle in their room and they go to rehab. You know, this is like cultural identity that's associated with that addiction that you're unraveling right now. And it takes time and it takes patience. You're understanding yourself. And I give thanks to you, because we're all learning from you right now as you step out there and you have the courage to be a part of this community.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you touched about being creative and letting the inner child play, because that's exactly what led me to healing and expressing was art. I found art therapy. The way I was able to get a hold on of it, because I guess you could consider a massive spiritual awakening. Some people get lost in psychosis. It's just psychosis, you know what I mean? Your whole world just ends. It's no longer valid. It's no longer, you see the truth in it. So all of a sudden you're in limbo, you know what I mean? There's nothing, it's you're not here, you're not over there, and dang, it's very scary. So it's an honor to be here, and yeah, I think this is the time for all us male to heal and honor that divine feminine that we do have inside, and that's what I've been learning, and that's what art allows for me to do, and that's the understanding that I've learned. You know what I mean? It helps synchronize both left and right hemispheres of our brain.
Exactly.
And that's honoring both. You know what I mean? It's that creative spirit comes from the divine feminine, and
yes.
birthing that new creation, that new reality, that new world has to come from that mother spirit.
Yes.
Got to honor that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
with that said, brother, I'd like to open up the space for the sisters here. If there's anyone that wants to share, I know that, you know, our time is limited. We've gone over right now, but I feel like I want to give witness. You know, if there's someone that would like to share, one of the sisters, before we close up here. You know, I know that there was some of you that when I was touching on sexual abuse, you were shedding some tears. I want to honor you and witness that and acknowledge that in you. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's okay as well. You know, but I also, and this is the thing, and I want you to know that it's okay at some point to come to the awareness of how you can begin to relate to those of us that have been on the other side, right? The abuser and that have been abused, because I've been in both of those places. And I feel like it's valid for us in this container to share a little bit about that process. So you're just free to unmute yourself. I know that you're waiting.
I'm here. I'm Cynthia. Thank you, everybody. This has been really nice to be a part of this. We haven't felt a sense of community in a few months. So to give you a little background, I'm from Oklahoma, and I moved here on February 4th into Portland, Oregon. And so, and then of course, 3 weeks later, everything shut down. And so just kind of been spending a lot of time with myself. And so it's nice to be here. So thank you. And yes, thank you for validating that I was raped, and it wasn't just, oh, I was just drunk. It's been like, and I do that laughing thing. I just did it. I laugh whenever I think something is ridiculous and unhappy. So working on that. But yeah, I thank you I really appreciate that you brought up, yeah, we raped, you know, yes, you were raped. You know, there's been so many times you probably picked this up for me already. I downplay this stuff, you know, it's like, oh, I was, you know, but I was drunk and we were kids but yeah, I was raped quite a few times. One time I was impregnated and I had an abortion and I didn't really want to, but I didn't know I was staying at my mom's, 29 years old, on drugs. Like, what am I supposed to, I mean, I wasn't. And so I had an abortion and I felt terrible. And people say, oh, you libtard murderers and all this stuff. And I'm like, God, do you realize you're talking to me? I'm a libtard murderer? Okay. I mean, so just, I'm sure that's how everybody probably feels a sense of being called names right now, probably. But I really appreciate this group because I've never heard a man say those exact words that you said, Andrew, like, oh, you know, my consensual was like, oh, get her drunk enough to where she consents. And so just for you to own that, thank you, because that was healing for me, because that happened to me a few times. And I remember the first time that it ever happened, it was very, very traumatic feeling for me. And I remember running away from this person's house, you know, and trying to get home. I was a teenager. And of course, never tell anybody because I felt like a slut. Right. So it was like, but yeah, I mean, there's so much that I have felt so much with this group already. I'm like, whew, no wonder Angelo loves you guys so much. That is a genuine laugh. But yeah, that's really important to say, Andrew. And thank you so much, Frank, too, for sharing everything that you shared. Because, you know, you never know when you look at someone, you think, oh, they look, you know, you never know. And this is such a good, love this group because we all look different, but we're all the same. We're all one. And man, just listening to your story, Frank, and Marcelo, and the other gentleman that was here too. Sorry if I missed a couple the other, Millie, I think. So yes, thank you so much for, I just wrote down here in my journal, I am validated, because I think that a lot of my anger probably stems from not feeling not validated. So thank you so much for you guys. You men are really, truly awesome men for showing up here and giving us the space to talk. So anybody else, any other females want to chime in, or women want to chime in?
I just want to thank you guys. I can't do this without crying, so I was trying to get it together, but so I
First of all, Becca, you are together. You are together in your tears. Your tears are beautiful. You are living witness of courage right now.
I just really, you guys have changed my life, and I feel honored to be here and share space with you all. And I really appreciate you, Andrew. It was a very beautiful time and space that we've shared, and I love every single word you said. So thank you.
Bless it. Blessings, everyone. You know, it has been a very meaningful experience for all of us. Thank you, Angelo, for being a part of this. I want to share, you know, get the link that I shared in the chat room. Please go and download the book for free. You know, I know that it's going to speak to almost everyone here that shared in a deep way. And I say that, you know, not to pat myself on the back, but to really encourage you to read the book. And if you're not a reader, there's an audio version that you can download to your phone and you can listen to it. It's my gift to you and my gift to the culture that we're creating. And this has really been a beautiful experience for me. You know, I feel like I feel validated in my service to community. So thank you. And I'll go ahead and pray us out now, unless there's a different way that you want to end, Angelo.
No, Andrew, thank you so much. It's a real honor for all of us to have you. Usually people will start to leave the group after this long, so you're very compelling, and your words are very special to all of us. So this is a very amazing time. Thank you.
Oh, all right. And we're probably going to launch our next Sacred Seven group here pretty, you know, within the next couple weeks. We just launched a group journey. So I want to invite all of you to be a part of that. Also, Angelo, I would work, you know, if there's a way that I can work with you to do a group journey into the Sacred Seven for this specific group, I'm open to that as well. You know, I know you guys have relationship already, and the bond is really a part of the experience. So I feel like we could get through a lot just setting up a group with the people that are here. So I'm open to facilitating that. So we'll share that discussion further. You know, either message me or we can do a phone call.
Absolutely.
So I'll go ahead and pray us out here. And if you just want to come into your prayer place, you know, rest. If it's available for you, I invite you to close your eyes. If that's not available for you, however you're in this place, you know, however you're connected, just resting into the prayer. Let's all just take a deep breath into the earth. Like the tree planted by the stream of water, we have found the source of life. And as we connect to the source of life, we connect to the infinite intelligence. And I thank you, Creator, for giving us the courage through your Spirit to share, to open up our hearts, to be with one another in this sacred way. And I pray that you would be a light to our footsteps as we go forward into our individual lives, into our family, into our community, into the loved ones that you have brought into our experience. And I pray that you would give us the emotional intelligence to learn how to turn our mess into our medicine. There are so many that are here that have lived through the struggles of this human experience. And as we come into the place of acknowledgement, as our dear sister Cynthia said, we acknowledge the power within our community. I thank you for Angelo. I thank you for all those that have spoke in this community, that have made themselves available. And we pray that you would continue to grow our community, continue to guide us, continue to protect us, continue to love us. And with all gratitude in our hearts, we agree together for beauty. Beauty above, beauty below, beauty beside, beauty in front, beauty behind. Hands on your heart, and if you could repeat with me, beauty within. I am, we are, made beautiful again. Oh. Blessings, family. I'll get with Angelo and we'll see, if there's interest in a Sacred Seven Journey. Please go get the book. It's free. I'm sure that, there'll be a lot revealed to you. Blessings, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye
you,
now.
everybody. Much love.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you guys so much. That was phenomenal. I actually did a little reading of some people earlier today. And it's deep synchronicity, like about answers and stuff, and really tapping into higher awareness. And this is just like so cosmic for me to hear it echoed from the universe through this man, Andrew Ecker. Good stuff. Love y'all.
All right, y'all. Next time, we'll see you at the Holistic Justice League meeting today at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Nice to see you all. Have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Thank you, Mark.